The notion for the camera had emerged from his attorney's recommendations, not as any kind of surveillance equipment. That term carried with it an undertone of distrust, and Edward Calloway found himself unable to entertain such thoughts about the woman he had engaged. Instead, he felt a profound fear, a specific, helpless terror that gripped him like a vice every time his young daughter failed to communicate her experiences during his absence. Which was most of the time, given that overseeing his company across 4 different time zones left him perpetually torn between duty and longing. Her name was Iris. At just 2 years old, she had arrived with her twin sister Clara in the womb during an early March morning that Edward would never fully recover from, not because complications arose, but because no preparation in his previous existence could have anticipated the magnitude of emotion that surged through him upon welcoming these 2 tiny humans into his life. While Clara took her first steps at 14 months, Iris did not. The pediatric neurologist approached the diagnosis with careful precision, explaining the implications behind the delay, and Edward sat quietly across from him, absorbing each detail while struggling to process how they landed within himself. Iris suffered from a condition impacting motor development on her left side. Though walking remained achievable, the path forward involved uncertainty regarding timing and significant therapeutic intervention. The expert advocated for professional physical therapy, a nurturing home setting and active patience, not passive waiting but persistent effort. To facilitate this environment, Edward employed Adiz Okonkwo as both housekeeper and manager. Her credentials were extensive, bordering on excessive, yet something about her interaction stood out immediately. During the interview, she greeted Iris warmly before addressing Edward directly, an observation that lodged itself firmly in his memory. She commenced her role on a Monday. 2 weeks later, on a Friday, the camera was installed per legal counsel's advice, presented as routine protocol for valuable properties. Edward consented reluctantly, recognizing the necessity while still grappling with lingering anxiety. The footage became a late-night ritual, reviewed in 15-minute bursts after transatlantic business calls concluded. It took 3 days before he witnessed a transformation that altered everything. Prior to documenting these reflections, if you believe that quiet individuals often perform the most vital tasks, consider liking this video, subscribing to Kindness Tales, and sharing it with someone who needs to reaffirm faith in humanity today. Adwoa Kanadu, aged 34, had spent 9 years in household management since migrating at 25 with formal training in early childhood education from abroad. However, local credentialing required revalidation, which she pursued incrementally amidst demanding work schedules and a life constrained by tight margins. She maintained custody of 3 children, ages 8, 6, and 4, who resided with their grandmother during weekdays due to incompatible timing, while Adwoa brought them home weekends filled with focused gratitude and intentional presence. Accepting the Calloway position provided financial stability and alignment with her strengths. She did not seek pity. Rather, she recognized untapped potential in children who simply needed guidance to find their footing, something she understood deeply. What unfolded on the camera during the 3rd day revealed unexpected progress. Edward anticipated seeing Iris seated normally, Clara playing nearby, and Adiz performing assigned duties. Instead, he observed Adiz kneeling, not sitting, on the polished wooden floor of the sunlit entryway, upright posture, arms extended toward Iris, who stood confidently using her walker, taking cautious steps. Her expression conveyed intense concentration. Adiz spoke softly, her voice inaudible through the lens, yet her gestures, open palms, focused attention communicated volumes. The distinction lay in expectation. One assumes a child might stumble, the other anticipates success. Clara clapped authentically, not for show. Iris advanced steadily 3, then 4, then 5 steps, before reaching out to grasp Adiz's hands. She lifted her daughter gently and whispered something that elicited laughter unlike any Edward had heard before, a deep, genuine joy emanating from within. Clara continued clapping. Edward remained motionless at his desk in a distant city at 11:30, witnessing his daughter's milestone, placing his hand over his mouth in stunned silence. He replayed the following day's recordings. Adiz returned to the floor, adjusting positioning slightly, maintaining the same open stance and attentive gaze. Iris progressed 6 steps, pausing, then trying again, 4 additional strides. By the third viewing, she managed 7, then 8, culminating in a sequence of 12, concluding with her releasing the walker completely, standing unsupported briefly before collapsing gracefully onto the floor, marveling at her own achievement. Adiz covered her chest with her hand. Clara exchanged whispers with Iris in their exclusive toddler dialect. Laughter echoed again. Edward booked the earliest flight home. As we proceed, recognized that Adiz's daily actions were captured visually, but remained largely invisible to broader society, the hallmark of essential labor performed unseen. Kindness Taylor's wishes to illuminate the influences that shaped Adiz into the woman kneeling on that floor. A teacher named Mrs. Adami noticed her early need for extra support at age 9 in an overcrowded classroom lacking resources. Meeting with her twice weekly after school, she nurtured promising students like Adiz without framing it as exceptional effort. It was simply part of her routine. This experience inspired Adiz to pursue teaching herself. She preserved Mrs. Adami's handwritten notes. A pediatric physiotherapist named Dr. Mensah permitted her to shadow sessions during school placements, treating her as a peer rather than a student. Once, mid-session, he remarked, "The child knows more about their capabilities than we do. Our role is to establish conducive conditions and step aside." These lessons became foundational. Another neighbor, Ms. Gloria, babysat Adwoa's children 17 times over 3 years when examination dates conflicted with work obligations, offering free assistance simply because she always prepared meals. She rejected the concept of sacrifice. It was merely Tuesday, Thursday, another evening meal. These individuals shaped Adwoa's character. She never perceived herself as inheriting burdens. Instead, she embodied their teachings through consistent action on that floor daily. Edward arrived Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, precisely Iris's optimal time according to the therapist when her energy peaked and frustration minimized. He entered quietly, still wearing his travel bag, observing silently. Iris stood at her walker, Clara prepared to applaud, and Adiz maintained her poised stance with open hands bathed in golden late afternoon light filtering through the windows. Iris took a step, another, then glanced upward to spot her father in the doorway. Her face transformed, the universal expression of encountering someone deeply missed, even when unaware of the anticipation. She released the walker, balanced upright for 3 seconds, then took 4 deliberate steps toward him before tumbling into his embrace. He held her tightly, speechless with emotion. Adiz settled back on her haunches, exhibiting the calm demeanor of someone comfortable allowing a moment to unfold naturally. Clara patted Adiz's arm affectionately. She smiled. Edward glanced at her over Iris's shoulder, asking, "How long has she been doing this?" Adiz replied, "The 5 steps began on day 3. We've been progressing since." He admitted, "I didn't inform you," she responded. "I wanted her to demonstrate it herself." He paused. "Why?" "Because the first person a child shows something to matters. She sensed your arrival. Children always know." He turned to his daughter, now nestled against his chest in that transitional state between consciousness and overwhelm. "The camera," he said. Adiz nodded quietly. "I viewed the recordings nightly." Silence followed. "What would enable you to focus on your goals, not just professionally but personally, to complete your qualifications, manage your children during weekdays? Describe the obstacles you face and how I might remove them." After considering carefully, she shared her needs. Edward listened with full attention, offering no interruptions. "I can address most concerns," he said, "not to simplify things but to render them feasible." "That differs from making it easy," she noted. "I understand," he affirmed. She met his gaze. "I'm certain your daughter will walk independently by summer." "I believe you." Meanwhile, Iris dozed peacefully on his shoulder, while Clara investigated something outside demanding her complete concentration. The room glowed softly in late afternoon light, tranquil as homes become when meaningful moments conclude and inhabitants process quietly. Adiz rose, smoothed her uniform and headed toward dinner preparation. Passing Miss Gloria's phone number scribbled on a card tacked near the refrigerator, she briefly touched it, a gesture reserved for essentials. Tuesday, Thursday, a pot simmering on the stove. The silent labor sustaining the world unnoticed, until someone observes, and that observation shifts everything. If this story resonates, engage with it by commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Kindness Tales for further narratives celebrating quiet devotion, spontaneous grace, and individuals who consistently arrive without seeking acclaim. For the most crucial work globally unfolds on knees, hardwood floors, open hands, and children taking one more step than yesterday. Welcome to Kindness Tales. We're delighted you've joined us.